Ryan with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana with another top 10 list. You know how much I love these top 10 lists. This is one you're going to want to stay tuned to the end because it's very controversial. It's controversial at the end. It's controversial along the way. It's controversial what my criteria are. Everything about it is going to piss people off, but it's one of those deals where I did a top 10 NBA point guards under the age of 25, and I promised you guys I would do an NBA top 10 bigs under 25. And I'm also going to do an NBA top 10 wings under age 25. And I've got a cool slideshow with some of their basketball cards as well, which I know a lot of you collectors will enjoy. So we'll get the list started. The one thing I do want to say is I want to be very clear. This is based on ceiling, potential, ability, upside, right? This is not who's had the best career. This is not who had the best 2021-22 season. This is not who's got the best chance to win a title. This is not whose cards are the most valuable or will be the most valuable. This is purely from an NBA basketball relevance standpoint. Which NBA bigs under the age of 25 do I think have the most potential to be good NBA players? That doesn't mean score the most points necessarily either. That's another thing to keep in mind in the modern NBA. So let's get the list started. Okay, first and foremost, this does not include any players that were drafted in the 2022 draft. So no Paolo Banchero, no Chet Holmgren, no Jabari Smith. It is not going to include Scotty Barnes, Miles Bridges, Michael Porter Jr., Franz Wagner, Jonathan Kuminga, Sadiq Bey, or Patrick Williams. Like it or not, I qualified those guys as wings. I argued with some of you guys. Well, I didn't argue, but I pointed out to some of you guys that players were not point guards that I considered wings. Is there a gray area? Absolutely. Is Jordan Poole a point guard? Yes, some people say yes. Some people say no. RJ Barrett, some people say yes. Some people say no. These are guys that I did not include in this analysis or in this projection because I consider those guys to be wings. They may be taller than some of the guys in here. It has nothing to do with height. It just has to do with their play style, the way they play basketball, and kind of the natural, way that they fit into an NBA basketball game. I had to draw the line somewhere. There's always going to be controversial gray areas. So those guys on that list, Scotty Barnes, Miles Bridges, Michael Porter, Franz Wagner, Jonathan Kuminga, Sadiq Bey, Patrick Williams, wings, not going to be in this video. Here's guys that are in the honorable mention that I don't want to say some of them just missed it because it's a big honorable mention. These guys were all considered bigs by me. I considered these guys to be bigs and eligible to make this top 10 list, but they just didn't quite get in there, okay? So here's my list. First of all, Bam Adebayo is 25 years old. Before anybody flames me in the comments, he's too old, okay? But here's the honorable mention that were qualified. Lauren Markkinen, Naz Reid, Jackson Hayes, Alperen Şengün, who I really like as a young big in Houston, even though nobody watches them because they're horrible. Isaiah Jackson, Isaiah Stewart, Obi Toppin, Precious Achiuwa, PJ Washington, Rui Hachimura. Some people are going to allege that he should be in the top 10. Argument there. That's fine. Same with Markkinen. Nick Claxton, Daniel Gafford, Thomas Bryant looking to rejuvenate his career in Los Angeles and help LeBron get another ring. Isaiah Roby, Bol, don't laugh. I've seen enough of him that he needs to at least get a look and get a mention, an honorable mention. He may be 24th on my list, but that dude can do some things with the ball. Mo Bamba and Mitchell Robinson. So that's my honorable mention. Those are guys that just missed it. I do want to ask for forgiveness preemptively. There is a chance, fellas, that I left somebody out. There was no easy way to compile this list of top 10. I looked at the draft classes over the last 4 years. 4 or 5 years. I looked at stats and sorted by rebounds, blocks, PER, field goal percentage, points. I tried to make doggone sure that I threw a cast net around anybody and everybody that should be considered. So if I have a glaring player that is clearly a top 10 player that I missed, I apologize. I don't know how many more hours I could have spent looking at this crap. If I missed somebody, I missed somebody. Let me know in the comments. But those are guys were all considered, so those should be the guys that were just on the outside looking in. All right, let's get cranking here. So the one thing I did want to draw your attention to is this right here. I wanted to show you, this is the 2021 and 2020 All-NBA rookie teams, first and second team. And if you look at this list, only Evan Mobley and Isaiah Stewart are the only two bigs out of the last, two full first and second team NBA All-Rookie teams. And so that just kind of gives you an indication of how lean bigs are in the NBA. Now, I mentioned it earlier. I didn't consider Sadiq Bey a big. I didn't consider some of these other borderline guys bigs. Okay, so I got Mobley and I've got Isaiah Stewart considered true bigs, right? I don't consider Patrick Williams a big. I think he's more of a wing. I don't think he's a power forward. I don't think he's a center for sure. So, but one thing that I did note real quick is that the 2022 draft is loaded, right? With Chet and Paolo and Jabari and then a couple other guys even behind them. So it looks like we got a nice new crop of bigs coming in. But I just did want to draw your attention to the last 2 years being somewhat barren when it comes to productive big men in the NBA. I won't spoil it, but one of those two bigs made the list. I'll let you figure out if it was Isaiah Stewart or Evan Mobley. So let's get cranking. Number 10 on my list. Never thought I'd do this. I've got Wendell Carter Jr. in here. No one was lower on Wendell Carter coming out of Duke University than I was. I had no idea that he would have a bounce back season like he had, but some of you guys might have been sleeping, or maybe you're just normal human beings and you've never watched Orlando Magic games. My apologies to Jake Roy at 90s Basketball Cards. I know he's a big fan, but weren't a lot of eyes on the Orlando Magic last year. But during that mediocrity that the Orlando Magic season turned into, Wendell Carter Jr. put up some numbers and had a great bounce back, 18.4 PER. Listen to this. He played 62 games and averaged a double-double. He averaged 15 points and 10 rebounds. He shot over 50% from the field, and he even stepped out and started shooting the three ball a little bit. I think Mo Bamba started to wear off on him. So I've got Wendell Carter as number 5. He's 23 years old from the 2018 draft. Down in Orlando, kind of revived his career with a bounce back season after leaving Chicago. Again, gave up on Lauri Markkanen. He had a great bounce back. Gave up on Wendell Carter. He had a great bounce back. Wendell Carter's 6'10", 270. I don't think anybody can argue that he's a wing. He is clearly a big man. I just thought the guy was a stiff, lumbering goon. But I totally missed, and he had a really good season last year. It'll be interesting to see what Orlando does with him and Mo Bamba this year, because you're not going to want both of them on the floor, because Paolo Banchero is better than both of them from day one, and so is Franz Wagner. So I don't think you can go 6'10", 6'10", 6'10", 7'1". Maybe you can. Hell, I don't know. But they've also got 4 point guards, so Orlando's got some stuff to figure out. Number 9 on the list. Let's keep rolling. Jarrett Allen. So here's a guy. He's not going to score the heck out of the ball. He's never going to be a prolific scorer in the NBA. He did average 16 points a game last year, which is not bad, right, from your big man, especially in the small ball NBA that we play in now. He's part of that 21 feet of just monster Cleveland front court, along with Lauri Markkanen and Evan Mobley. So 21 feet between those guys. They're the team that's trying to buck the trend and shove it down the throats of these small ball teams and see how they respond. It worked great in the regular season. We need to see after a couple years how this can work in the playoffs and if they can get to the promised land playing 21 feet in their front court. But Jarrett Allen, 16.1 points, 10.8 rebounds, shot a preposterous, absolutely preposterous 67.7% from the field. He knocked down threes at a 10% clip, so you're not going to get him to stretch the floor for you. I don't see him ever expanding his game to include that. He is essentially your poor man's Rudy Gobert. That's just my opinion of Jarrett Allen. We know he blocks shots. He had a 23 PER last year. That is monstrous. 23 PER last year, made the All-Star team. Which not very many people on this list can say, and he blocked 1.3, a relatively respectable 1.3 shots per game. Jarrett Allen, 6'11", 243. He's a big. He's a true big. He's a rim runner big. He is what he is. Probably more effective on the defensive end and more meaningful, but 16 and 11 is no joke, man. Great season for Jarrett Allen. If he hadn't gotten hurt, he would have had an even better season and pushed for an All-NBA team, believe it or not. So 56 games. I just have him 9th, way up back here on my list. Even though he's got much better numbers than some of the guys that you're about to see, I just think we're as close to his ceiling as you can get. I just don't know how much more upside there is. I don't think he's ever going to be a throw it into him and let the offense run through Jarrett Allen. I just don't. And I think a lot of his production hinged on the explosion of a year that Darius Garland had. I mean, he just took the next step. Let's move to number 8 on our list. Again, John Collins. So I've got John Collins here at number 8 on my list. A lot of people were high on him coming out of Summer League his rookie year. A lot of people were high on him, after that big year that the Atlanta Hawks had where he formed a formidable pick and roll tandem with Trey young. John Collins is a great player. He's only 6'9", 235, so he's smaller than Kevin Durant, but he is a true big. Now, he can do some things facing up in that mid-post and even playing with his back to the basket. Super bouncy guy. He is 24 years old in 314 days. So let's keep that in mind, right? He's got a little bit of an advantage here on some of these younger cats that I'm going to have placed ahead of him on this list because, again, this is not what have you done in the NBA. This is what does Brian think you're going to do in the NBA, right? So this is upside. This is not what have you done. This is upside. So he's got 4 or 5 years on some of these guys. He's almost 25 years old. He's the oldest player on the list, unquestionably. He had a really good 18.7 PER last year as well. 16.2 points, 7.8 rebounds. Doesn't rebound the ball great. He actually came off of his career averages last year, which is part of the reason the Hawks didn't do what they did the year before. Shoots 52% from the field, can step out and shoot the three, and started to do that a little bit more last year. And that might be part of the reason why his game suffered a little bit. He shot, believe it or not, this is going to sound nuts, and none of y'all are going to realize this. He shot 40% from three and then 40% from three again in 2019 and 2020. And then last year he dropped back to 36%, which is still very good. Now, part of the reason is he's open, right? Bigs are going to shoot a good percentage because they're going to be open a little bit more. So bigs that can shoot are going to shoot a good percentage. So he wasn't exactly shooting off the bounce or off the dribble or off step backs or things like that. So John Collins is right there on my list. A really good player. I just, again, like Jarrett Allen, I don't know how much more is there. I don't see John Collins or Jarrett Allen developing, or Wendell Carter for that matter, developing into the next Joel Embiid. That's just not going to happen. So they are what they are. You know what they can do, and that's where they belong. Another guy in the very, very similar light is the next guy on our list at number 7 is Robert Williams. One of the greatest nicknames of all time, the Time Lord. I still don't even know why he's called the Time Lord, but that's creepy and intimidating. I actually recruited Robert Williams when he was a high school basketball player up near Shreveport, Louisiana, and actually in Northwood, Louisiana. He was a mystery. No one could get to him. I could not get in touch with him. His people had him protected. And none of us really ever got to see him. He ended up playing for a different team in Texas instead of my Nike EYBL team. So I just missed out on one of the best big men in the NBA. Too bad. It would have really helped our team. But anyway, he's only 6'8", 237, so he's a little bit undersized for a true big, but man, does he play big. 22.1 PER is a whopping number, averaged 10 and 10, shot 73% from the field because he dunks everything in sight. I don't have dunks pulled up on the screen, but I gotta believe he had to be somewhere up there in the league leaders in dunks, even though he only played 61 games, because he dunks everything in sight. He also blocked over 2 shots a game, which just doesn't happen very often in the NBA anymore. 2.2 blocks per game. Again, like the guys before him, I don't know if Robert Williams' game offensively can progress enough to match the guys that you're about to see on the list. As we go through the list, you're going to see that the players that I have ranked at or near the top of the list are all players that I see developing a positive, or some of them already have, but developing a devastating offensive game and becoming a more balanced big man. The guys that we've looked at so far, I don't think they're really ever going to get to be a 20 to 23 point per game type scorer, whereas a lot of the guys that we're about to get to on my list I think can be. So Robert Williams is there, safely snuggled, nestled in at the number 7 on the list. Number 6 on the list. Okay, let the flaming comments begin. A lot of people might just click the stop button and stop watching the video. I'm probably going to lose subscribers for this. People bitched about me including Kevin Porter Jr. on my point guard list. They didn't think he belonged. Again, I just want to reiterate, I am talking about absolute ceiling potential as an NBA basketball player. Everybody completely has ignored this guy. He's been in Siberia. He actually showed up in Detroit and put up huge numbers. He was a 20 and 10 guy for a very, very long stretch. Again, I know it's easy to put up empty numbers in trashy places with no talent, but they're going to have talent this year. He's going to have really good players around him. I think it's going to free him up to do even more things. He's sponsored by Puma, so he's got that going for him, whatever that means. He's only 23 years old. He's 6'11", 235, with the ability to get to 250 and and become an absolute man-child on the block. So the reason I've got him where he is, ahead of players who have put up better numbers in their career thus far, is because I think he's got the ability to develop into a very, very good NBA big man on the offensive end. And I don't think the guys we've talked about so far have that ability. PER is not great, 15.7. His career PER is actually better. While he was in Detroit last year, he only got 48 games in. He didn't do much of anything in Sacramento, but when he got to Detroit, here's his 20. He played 18 games last year in Detroit. He averaged 14.6, 7 rebounds a game, doesn't really block shots. Needs to work on his free throw shooting. You know what? Maybe I do have him ranked too high, but I'm going to leave him here because I've seen flashes of him stepping out and shooting the three ball, even though it doesn't seem to be going in very much for him right now. I'm going to keep faith in Marvin Bagley. I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of his cards, nor do I have a bunch of his cards, but I'm going to leave Marvin Bagley here because I still think his offensive upside is ahead of the guys that we've named on the list so far, even though he'll probably never reach their level defensively. I got Marvin Bagley here, and I'm sticking to it. Feel free to crush me in the comments. I know it's coming. Number 5 on my list, I got Jaren Jackson Jr. So Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great example of somebody who, thinks he needs to play offense, but I'm not really sure he does. He shot a ton of threes for a big man, a true big man, and I think this is the problem. In 2019, he decided, I'm going to take a hell of a lot of threes. He took 6.5 threes per game, and he shot a really good percentage. He shot 39.4%, which is really good, despite the fact that he releases the ball at his nipples like a middle school girl basketball player. But 46.9% from the field and 40% from three back in 2019. But then he dropped off to 28%, and then last year he shot 31%. But he's hoisting them up at over 5 a game, sometimes pushing 6, 7, 8 a game. I've watched games where he's taking that many shots. I think he thinks he's an offensive player, but I'm not really sure he is yet. He did have a huge jump last year in his block shots per game, and I think people took notice. And there was even some rumors about, defensive player of the year talk and things like that. I don't know about that. That might be a little bit overblown. But 2.3 blocks a game is a hell of a lot of blocks. I think that led the league in blocks, to be quite honest with you. I'm not sure. I probably need to double check that. Somebody check that for me. But 2.3 blocks per game, 16.3 points per game. He only rebounds the ball at 5.8. It's just not good enough. That's less than Bagley has rebounded in any of his seasons in the NBA. So I've got Jaren Jackson on here just because he's so much better than Bagley at defense, and he's okay at offense. I got something in my throat. I think Jaren Jackson could probably push that 20 points per game mark, but let's just see, right? So that's where I've got Jaren Jackson kind of nestled right there in the middle at the number 5 spot. Number 4, I saw enough in Summer League, and I've seen enough in his grassroots stuff. This dude is not normal. James Wiseman is something. For those of you who have not been paying attention because he's been, hasn't really played in the NBA yet, this is somebody you need to pay attention to. James Wiseman is the real deal. As you can see on the screen, he's only 21 years old, and he's already 7 foot 240. So body, check. Age, check. Ability to step out and shoot the three, check. I saw it in Summer League. Ability to dunk every single thing in his path, yes, absolutely. And he looked like he had a little bit of a mean streak. He might be pissed off that the entire world has forgotten about him. And he's already got a ring. I'm just kidding about that. He does have a ring, but he really didn't have much to do with it. But he fills a huge void for the Warriors. There'll be a lot of attention on him, a lot of eyes on him. His cards are going to go up, even though I am the person who says, do not invest in big men. That's just like my one rule, unless his name is Shaquille O'Neal. So I personally don't own a single James Wiseman card, and I probably never will. But that's not what this list is about. This list is about who is going to be the best big man on this list in 4, 5, 6 years. And I think James Wiseman has a great chance to be at or near the top of that list. One interesting note is one of his nicknames is Big Jim, which is really cool. Really cool nickname for a 7 foot, 240 pound guy. Big Jim. James Wiseman fits there nicely, and it's based on a very small glimpse of what I saw in Summer League. He looks perfectly healthy. Let's see how much the Warriors utilize him and how many minutes he gets on that team that likes to play small ball so much. My guess is he may not finish games, but he's going to play a prominent role in getting them a lead going into the fourth quarter. Number 3 on the list, Evan Mobley. And this is where it got kind of tough, right? Because you haven't seen enough of Evan Mobley or James Wiseman to really figure out where they belong. A lot of people like to make Anthony Davis comparisons when they talk about Evan Mobley. It's tough because Anthony Davis is a transcendent talent. Call it, bitch about him, harass him, be derogatory, all you want with Anthony Davis. But when Anthony Davis was healthy and engaged and cared, he was an MVP candidate and a top 5 player in the world. Do I think he's there anymore? No, because I don't think he cares enough. And he's extremely brittle. But that comparison is there. I see it because Anthony Davis was also very slight when he came into the league, and he was also very versatile and could step out and shoot mid-range jumpers from day one. Mobley can do the same thing. He did not shoot the ball very well from three-point land, but he showed a willingness to actually take them. So he took about 1.7 threes per game. He only shot it at about 25%, so 1 of every 4 went in. That ain't going to cut it, but I saw enough, and his stroke looks clean. It looks like he's gonna get there. He averaged 15 points, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and shot 50% from the field. Needs to work on his free throws, but he's an undeniable talent. Everybody saw, what they needed to see. He really excelled on the defensive end, blocked 1.7 shots per game, and stole it almost one time a game at 0.8 per game. I like him. His effective field goal percentage was over 50%. His field goal percentage was over 50%. So he checks a lot of boxes. He's got great length. Here's the issue. He's 21 years old. When he's 25, guys, he's going to be 7 foot 240. So think how much that changes the game, right? He's 7 foot 215. He weighs less than most wings. When he's 7 foot 240, he's going to be a huge problem. He's going to be able to turn his back in the post. He's going to be able to bounce people off. He's going to dunk things around the rim that he can't dunk right now. So, again, upside galore. I got Evan Mobley at number 3 on my list. All right, number 2. Y'all are probably one of these is going to be Deandre Ayton, but you don't know if he's going to be number 1 or number 2, right? We haven't seen DeAndre yet. We know he's not honorable mention. We know he's got to be on the list, so he's either 1 or 2. And this is where it's going to get a little controversial, and all the haters are going to come out of the bushes and go flame us in the comments. I've got DeAndre Ayton at number 2. Which is going to leave a little uncertainty as to who is number 1 just based on criteria for this list. DeAndre Ayton, age 24, right? So he's a little bit older than you thought. He looks like he's 54, but he's got the body of a 24-year-old. The dude is yoked and put together and checks every box when it comes to the eye test. 6'11", 250 animal, 2018 rookie, all-rookie team. Like I said, he's 24 years old. 21.9 PER, really upped his defensive game last year and his offensive game last year. Averaged 17 and 10, which is about as good as it gets on this list. Shot 63% from the field and a very respectable 75% from the free throw line. Has not yet decided he's going to step out and take any threes. He took 0.3 a game, which is 1 every 3 games, which is about, 20 a game, 20 a season. So he's not going to be the guy that does that. I don't think he's ever going to really transition to that. Obviously, he'd be a superhero if he could do that, but I think he's a true big and he's going to stay where he belongs. So 17 points, 10 rebounds a game. Remember, just 2 years ago, he was 18 and 11. But his block shots is the thing that really concerns me. I don't really understand it because he's not a bad position defender. He's starting to figure out how to play defense in the NBA, but 0.7 blocks a game. He blocked 1.5 a game when he was 21, and then at age 23 last year, he blocked half as many. So I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's a shift in the way that the Phoenix Suns play defense. Or maybe Michael Bridges just blocks everything before it gets to DeAndre Ayton. I'm not sure what the problem is there, but durability is his issue, right? So he's played 71, 38, 69, and 58 games. So we got to get DeAndre Ayton healthy and on the floor, which is obviously going to be a concern for number 1 on our list, which some of you may have figured out, and some of you might say WTH. He's only 6'6". I've got Zion number 1. And I've got Zion as a big because he can't dribble a basketball. He's 1 or 2 dribbles max. He is a post player. He does all of his damage at or near the rim or in the mid post at the very least with floaters and up and unders and spin shots and layups. I've got him considered a big. You may not consider him a big, and if you don't, then that means DeAndre Ayton could be number 1 for your modified version of my list. But I consider Zion Williamson a big because he weighs 284 pounds. And he plays that position, unquestionably. So he's a clear-cut 4. He's not a wing. Ingram, Herb Jones, and those guys are the wings. And Zion plays the true power forward position. He doesn't take a lot of threes. Is another reason I categorize him as a big. He takes 0.6 threes per game, and he can't make them at all. But what people tend to forget is that 2 years ago, this guy was an NBA All-Star. 2 years ago, this guy averaged 27, 7, and 4 and shot an effective field goal percentage of 61%. So no one on this list can claim to have done that or probably ever will do that. And so for that reason alone, I think it goes without saying, say what you want about his durability or his refusal to play or whatever the hell kind of gimmicks they're playing down there with his team in New Orleans, but he's extended now. He's under contract. The team is absolutely loaded. If there's a team you're looking for to watch on League Pass to make a huge jump in the win column this year, the New Orleans Pelicans have got to be at or near the top of that list. Again, he's already made an all-star team. And he's just as talented as it gets. I think who else on this list, I'm scrolling back real quick to see who else on the list has even made an all-star team. And I think it's only Jarrett Allen this year. I don't think anybody else, nobody else on this list has made an all-star team except for Jarrett Allen and Zion Williamson. And Zion Williamson is 22 years old and hasn't even begun to scratch the surface. So I don't think it's even questionable that Zion Williamson's number one. The only argument you could have is, open quotes, Zion Williamson's not a big, close quotes. But again, that's kind of a failed argument if you ask me. I consider him a big. So that's my list, guys. I want to know what you guys think. I want you to be cordial a little bit if you can. Do your best, right? Remember, this is just my opinion. This has nothing to do with cards. This has nothing to do with who makes their team better. This is just straight up who I think is going to end up with, having the best NBA career. Pure potential when it's all said and done. And again, it is assuming that Zion Williamson stays healthy. Obviously, if he's playing 12 games a season on average like he has so far, he's not going to be number one on the list, and I'm going to look like an idiot. But this is assuming he can get his stuff together like Ben Simmons did, health-wise, and like Joel Embiid did, and some other guys like that have sat out their rookie season and then come back to be absolute phenoms in the NBA. So Zion gets number one on my list. And again, I will reiterate, I own one DeAndre Ayton card. I own 0 James Wiseman cards. I own 0 Evan Mobley cards. I own 0 Zion Williamson cards. I own 0 John Collins cards. I own 0 Bagley, Robert Williams, Jarrett Allen, or Wendell Carter cards. So of all the guys on this list, I own one card. I bought a DeAndre Ayton National Treasures RPA CSG 9 that I wanted to try to crack and send to PSA. So how is that for a funny story? So you can't accuse me of being biased for greed reasons, right? I'm not hyping my players. So that's my list for what it's worth. Take it or leave it, agree or disagree. Let me know what you think in the comments. These lists are always fun because there's no right answer. I'm sure a lot of people will argue with the more about the honorable mention and who's a wing and who's a big than the list itself. So let me know what you think. I want to know what your list would look like. Who are your top 3? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? As always, I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you guys watching my stuff. I love doing outside the box videos like this where I just get to ramble and scream at the screen. You guys have always been real polite in your comments, so let's keep them that way. And I've even seen some vitriol between 2 different commenters because a lot of us are invested in these guys and we get passionate about it. And that's what's beautiful about the hobby. If you're a card collector who's watching, I know some just pure NBA guys are watching this, but if you're a card collector, that's part of what we love about the hobby is that we vehemently defend our players with great vitriol, and sometimes it gets contentious. So let's keep the comments polite, especially if they're directed towards me, because I would like it that way, and my wife would like it that way. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. As always, keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.